Hey guys, it's Ben here, and today I'm going to be walking through the BountyHunter HackTheBox challenge. I've got the box up and running, so let's just check if I can ping it. I've added it to my host file, the IP BountyHunter.HackTheBox, and we can see we are successfully getting pings back. I have already done an nmap scan, so let's just walk through that now. The command I actually run was tac, so all ports doing service enumeration, service version enumeration, tac SC for using default NSE scripts, tac O for operating system enumeration, tac N to disable DNS resolution, tac T4 to increase the speed from its default speed, tac PN to not do like a test ping, tac O to output this to full thorough.log, and then the IP there, we can see it has returned back two ports, two TCP ports to be open. One of them is SSH, and the other is a web server running HTTP on port 80. We can see it's an Apache web server. So let's have a look at this website. Let's go to, and I've got Burp Suite Intercept on. Let's turn that off. There we go. Let's go to BountyHunter.HackTheBox, and we can see it looks like some sort of bug bounty security researcher website with some contact us form. There's a few, if you hover over the about button here, we can see in the bottom left hand corner it doesn't really go anywhere. Same with the contact, doesn't go anywhere. And portal does go to a portal.php, so we can click on that and see where that goes to. It says this portal is under development. Click here to test the bounty tracker. So we can click that, open that up. Hovering over that, that goes to log_submit.php. There's nothing else in the source code there. And here, it looks like there's some report system with a submit button. Let's look at the web technologies. There is PHP in use. There is also an Apache web server. So there's some sort of submit button. Before I dig into that, let's get some fuzzing going on. So I've got a web directory. Let's use GoBuster. Let's do directory fuzzing or file fuzzing. Let's go to BountyHunter.HackTheBox, and the word list I'm going to use is user share word lists, sec lists, discovery, web content, raft, medium. I'm going to start off with the files fuzzing, and I'm going to tee this to fuzz files.log. I'll let that do its thing with the files it finds, and I'm also going to get a directory enumeration going. So URL HTTP BountyHunter.HackTheBox. The word list is user share word lists, sec lists, discovery, web content, and we'll use raft medium directories.log.txt, and we'll tee that to fuzzdirs.log. I'll let that do its thing. Now let's have a look at this. So there is this submit button. Let's dig into the source code to see what this actually does. We can see this submit button, it uses this bounty submit JavaScript function. This isn't defined in this log_submit.php source code. However, we are including this bounty log.js file, so perhaps, almost certainly this bounty submit function is probably defined in here. Let's check out this JS file, and we can see, yeah, look, that function is defined here, and it's using some try and catch. It's going to try to find this variable called XML, and it looks like it's taking our form, exploit title, CWE, CVSS score, and it's putting it into some sort of XML query. And it also is using this base64 encoding at the end. And there is also this return secret, which is posting it to this weird tracker.proof314. So that's interesting, right? We can presume when we press this, it's going to send an XML query. It looks like it's going to base64 encode it first to this endpoint proof tracker_proof, but we don't know for sure. So what I'm going to do is just confirm this with Burp Suite, sending a test payload or a test form just to see if this is true. The fact that, let's just do this first. So we'll go proxy, we'll turn the proxy on, test, 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 test. We'll send this, and we can see the data is we're posting to this endpoint as we expected, and it's passed as data. So let's just copy this. And let's turn burp suite intercept off. I'm going to go to CyberChef. And I'm going to put it in here. The payload is URL encoded, so I'm going to first of all URL decode this. There we go, and that turns into equal signs, and then we're going to base64 decode this, and we can see, look, this is the XML query. We can control this XML query, so we could perhaps introduce an XML entity and use an XXE attack. So this is external XML entity injection. So let's take this payload, put this in here. I'm going to clear this. I'm going to do the opposite now. I'm going to base64 encode it to base64 encode it, and then we will URL encode it. We can see it hasn't encoded these last two equal signs. We need to include the special characters, and now we can test out some XXE payloads to see, is this really working. So let's go get an XXE payload list, because I can't remember all of these off the top of my head. Is there any up here we can try? Yeah, let's give this one a go, right? We can introduce an XML entity like so. I am going to call this entity XXE, and I'm going to change the value to be hello world. I want to, if you don't know about XML external entity injection, I have done another video on it on a Pico CTF challenge. I'll probably link that in the description. But you can think about these XML entities as basically variables in the XML world. I'm defining it here and setting it the value of XXE, and now I can call it down here. So I want the title parameter be set to the value of the XML entity. I'll do that here, so XXE, like so. And now we've got our payload, which includes this XXE injection. I'm going to turn intercept back on, just so we can get one of these in the repeater. I'm going to submit that. I'm going to turn burp suite on as well, submit that. Send this to the repeater, so we can see we can send it here. It's all good, it displays it like so. What I want to do now is include this payload and change this base64 encoded XML query here, and this should change to hello world if it's working. So yeah, we've confirmed XXE exists, and now we want to see how we can take advantage of this. So it can be used to read files. For example, read file here. You can use this system command and PHP filter to base64 encode a file, or you could read it raw, like so. Let's try this. Let's put this line here. I'm going to call this XXE. This should basically give us the base64 encoded version of the Etsy password file. So let's do that now. I'll copy this bottom one here. And let's paste this in here. And we can see we do indeed get base64 encoded result. I'm going to copy this so we can decode it and have a look. I'm going to get another one of these open. Let's clear this, paste that in there. We can base64 encode it, and we've got the Etsy password file. If you look through, there is this development user with a home folder, so that's something of interest. That's a possible user we could take advantage of in the future. But in the meantime, let's go back to our file read and see if we can. Where is our payload here? We'll see if we can read any other interesting files. So we could read the source code. There are these PHP source code like this log submit, or we could look at our fuzzing and see, look, these are the files here. The PHP files are the ones of most interest, so like index.php, portal.php. There was this weird one here, tracker.derb.php. So let's just try this, and let's see if we can read each of these individually and just take a look at the source code. Is there anything interesting in there? So I'm going to set this file here. Yep, that's the file name, tracker.derb.proof. That's our payload, so I'm going to copy this. And I'm going to put this payload here. Send that, and we can see we do get a base64 encoded result, which will be the PHP source code. So we can have a look at this, paste this in here, and it's basically, this is the bit we're interested in. We can see this bottom bit, this HTML already. This is just showing how it's reading. It's taking our post data, which we supplied, the base64 encoded it. It's first of all base64 decoding it, and then it's using some load XML and DOM document functions and stuff which I don't really know about to display it, and process the XML query. So yeah, it's interesting. We can read the source code, but it doesn't really get us any further. So we can try some of these other files. Like the one which stood out to me the most was this db.php. So this must be in use somewhere. When we try visit it, like so, for example, db.php, it's just a blank page. So it probably means there is PHP source code in this, but PHP source code is executed on the server side, so we can't read it client side. However, as we've got an XXE vulnerability, we may be able to read that file straight away and just see what it contains. So let's do that. db.php. Let's copy this. There we go. Paste this in here. And we do get base64 encoded result. This one looks a bit smaller, but let's have a look what it contains. Go in here, paste it in there. And it looks like there's this to-do note, implement login system with the database, and we've got some credentials here. So credentials for this database username, password, and we've got this password here. So when we did our scan, there are no front-facing databases, right? There is no MySQL, PostgreSQL databases running. However, they may follow bad practices. They may reuse this password somewhere else. We do know of a user from our Etsy password. There was that development user, so we could perhaps try see if this password is reused on that development user. We did notice when we did the Nmap scan there was that SSH, so perhaps we can SSH as the development user onto BountyHunter, and we'll give that a go. The password, I've got this copied here, so let's paste that in, and we can see that is indeed the password in use. So just ls-tag-la, we can see, look, where's the user.txt? It's owned by root, but in the development group. Others will have read access. I'm not going to cat it open, but we've got the user flag like that. There is also this contract.txt, so let's check this out. Cat contract. Hey team, I'll be out of office this week, but please make sure you that our contract with Skytrain Inc. gets completed. Blah blah blah. I set up the permissions for you to test this. Good luck. So maybe there's been a change of our permissions. What I would usually do when I do privilege escalation is I check a few basic things just to see, like the quick wins. So one of them is sudo tac-l. Maybe they've changed our permissions with sudo tac-l, and we can see, look, the development user can run as root with no password, Python 3.8, this Python script here. So let's check this out, right? Let's cat opt skytrain ticket validator.py, and we've got this Python script here. Do not distribute this file, evaluate main, and I don't really like it without the color highlighting, syntax highlighting. What I'm going to do, I'm going to bring this back over here. I'm going to make directory PE. I'm going to close this down. I'm going to cd into PE, and I'm going to make my own ticket validator PY, paste this in here. I'm actually going to open this with subl ticket validator.py so we can see this code a bit more clearly. So it loads a file, there's an evaluate function, and there's this main function. We can see it starts off by asking us to enter the path to a ticket file, and then the ticket is equal to this load file function. So we go back up to the load file function. It checks if this file ends with a .md, so it's a markdown file. If so, it returns open, else it will print wrong file type, and that's that. So I'm guessing it has to end in a .md, our file, and then after that it's passed into the evaluate function. The evaluate function evaluates a ticket to check for irregularities. It uses this enumerate function, which I don't know too much about it. I think it turns it into sort of like a dictionary, but we can investigate that in a bit further. And there's also this code line set to none, so it first checks if I is equal to 0, so we can say basically is the first line equal. So for the first line, if it doesn't start with this skytrain.inc, it will return false. And then, yeah, that's that. And it'll continue. If the second line starts with this, if it doesn't start with that, it will return false, and it will print this. So what I can do is basically just play around with this. I'm going to do this locally. I'm going to move this across here so I'm not playing around on the box. We've got this ticket validator. I'm going to also make a ticket.md file. And we know it wants it to start with this. That's what it's checking to begin with. So let's paste this in here. And then the second line it checks for is this, ticket2. And then it does print, and then this line here, but it's taking from the third character. It splits it and takes it for the third character. So I'm guessing we have to we can say ticket2 test 1 2 3. I expect when we run this, it's going to print destination test 1 2 3. So let's just try this. Python ticket validator. The file is ticket.md. It does print that destination test 1 2 3, but then it says invalid ticket. If the result is true, then it says valid ticket. If it's false, then it will print invalid ticket. We can see these first two lines must have returned true. So we're doing okay for I equals 0 and I equals 1. That's all good, but the next line of code it fails with. So if X starts with ticket code, so we know that next line is going to have to start with ticket code. So I need to what I'll do is vi mark ticket dot markdown like so. The next line is going to be like that. We can write this, and on this one we can Python ticket.md. Still gives invalid ticket because there is more onto it after, but we do know if this happens and it starts with this code line is going to be equal to I plus 1. So let's just beginning of this, let's just print I and X just to see what this is doing. So let's try again, Python ticket.md. So it starts off I is equal to 0, and it's skytrain.inc. I is equal to 1, it's this. And then on line 2, it's this here. It does set code line equals I plus 1. Let's also print code line just to see how this is changing. Ticket.md. We can see it's set to none there, and it's set to none in all of these, but I'm guessing on the next one, let's try print code line here. So it should go from none to I plus 1, which should be 3. So let's see if it changes to 3. Ticket.md. and it doesn't look like it actually gets that line, unless it hasn't changed at all. We can see, let's just jump ahead. See the next line, it says, if it doesn't start with this, return false. And that is probably what's happening here. So what we can do is starts with code line equals this. So let me just, or maybe it's the line after. So let's try the line after. Let's change this to, and we'll just put a random word in here. Let's just say a random number. Let's just 235. Let's just write this. Let's see what this does. Python ticket.md, and it is saying it's a valid ticket. So that's strange. We can put 235 and it says it's a valid ticket. That code line has been updated now. It's set to 3, but it is saying it's a valid ticket. So let's see why this is valid. It takes this ticket code, which is equal to x.replace. The line in question here is this one here. So it's replacing the asterisks for empties. So it's just gonna, basically it's gonna convert from, in this case, 235 to 235. There is also a split, so it also does split with a plus. So for example, if this was 43, it would split the plus, so it would break it apart into two separate, into an array. It would split it into 43 like here, but we can see it's taken the first member of that array there, so it's turning that just to 235. 235, like so, and then it's checking if the integer value of 235 when the remainder when divided by 7 is 4, it's going to pass it on to eval, and it's going to check if it's greater than 100, then return true and return false. So it's basically checking the remainder when divided by 4. So 235 divided by 7, or the remainder must be equal to 4 in this case, because it is saying it's returning true, which is valid ticket. So let's just check that. Let's go 235 divided by 7. That is equal to 33. So I'm going to minus 33. And we'll take this number here, and you'll times that by we'll times that by 7, and that does give 4. So the number I picked by random did happen to work. If, for example, I tried a different number, 234, this should give invalid ticket, right? Ticket.md, invalid ticket. What I did notice as well is we do the splitting here. So if I, for example, did 235 plus 43, it splits it just to give this, and that's our ticket code variable, and that's just one number. So when it checks this, it checks just if that first number is divisible, gives a remainder 4 when divided by 7. It checks that. If that is the case, then it will run the eval command. This evaluate command is particularly vulnerable because it can evaluate Python expressions. In this case, we control these, so we could perhaps subvert it to do something dodgy. In this case, there is no dot split, so it's not gonna go eval 235 like you would expect it to be. Instead, it's going to be, for example, if we did the above example, it's going to be 235 plus 43. So, because it doesn't have that dot split, it's just got the string. So if we pass this, it will split it. It will remove these asterisks, but it won't split it up. So surely if we played around with the script, so I just want to change. Let's just print this out now. Let's print eval x.replace star star star. And now let's change this to be something like this. So 234 plus 100. And I'm going to remove some of the other prints we've got because they are getting a bit in the way now. Save that. Ticket.md. And it is saying invalid ticket. So what have I done here? I changed that to 234, so it's not getting past that first part. This needs to be 235 to actually have that remainder of 4 when divided by 7. Ticket.md. And it says valid ticket, and it does return 335. So it has evaluated this here. So we've got it to subvert what it should be doing, and it does evaluate something dodgy. So we can control basically what is in this eval expression here. So let's get Python open just to have a play around. So we know we want to do something like this, right? We want to eval, there's going to be a number here, 235. There's also going to be something else. And then we want to put our own expression here. So we could try something like and then try print hello world. What will happen when we do this? So it does print hello world. So I could try something like import and then import OS, like so. And then do, I believe it's like this. And then we can just say, who am I? I'm importing the OS Python module, and I'm using the system function from that to execute who am I. This is just executing command line, executing through bash, through the command line. And we can see that does return Kali. I could also do like ID, for example. And we can see we can get command execution. So let's see if we can feed this back into our program. So let's do this here. Yeah, let's keep that. And we'll just paste this here and import this. So if I try this, I'm going to write that. Exit. There we go. If I run ticket validator, ticket.md, we can see it does indeed execute this, and we get it printed out there. So we know we can get command execution. If I tried this on this one, it would work as well. I would have to create that same ticket.md. I would copy it across. And just for example, I will show you. So let's just right quick. Let's cat ticket.md. I'm going to close this one down now. Move over to the real environment. Copy this, and I'm going to go vi ticket.md. I'm going to paste this in here. Right quit. What I'm going to do, if we go sudo tac l, see we can run this as sudo. So I'm going to go sudo user bin python 3.8 opt skytrain ticket validator. It's going to ask for the file ticket.md, and we can see it does run as root. So we can get command execution as root. I want a shell, or I want to that's what I want to do. I want to get a shell. So there's probably a few ways we can do this. The way I'm going to do it is by using the chmod command to change the permissions of bin bash, and then basically I'm going to make bin bash a suid binary, and then when it's a suid binary itself, it's game over basically. I'm going to go chmod. I'm going to change the user permission to have the suid bit set, and the file I'm going to do this on is bin bash. So messed up a bit there. There we go. Is bin bash, like so. I'm going to right quit that, and I'm just going to show you ls-tac-la bin bash. We can see there's no suid bit set. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run this now. I'm going to go sudo user bin python ticket.md. It's saying invalid ticket. But let's check again. Has this changed it? And it has. It's now got the suid bit set. So I can just show you who am I? Development. If I go bin bash hackp. Who am I? I'm root now, so cd into root. I'm root. I can open root.txt. So yeah, that's this challenge done. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I'll see you on the next one.